Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Glossy Philosophy. My name is Jansen Binman. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel and give this video a thumbs up because today we are talking about the incredible book, The Kingdom of Prep by Maggie Bullock. Today is a great day because we are finally talking about one of the best books that I read last year and had to be on the January list. So The Kingdom of Prep by Maggie Bullock is a brilliant piece on the rise and fall, or almost fall, of J Crew. Now, if you know nothing about J Crew, that is totally fine because she is going to walk you through it from the catalog beginnings all the way through Jenna Lyons and a little bit more of the recent what's happening and, of course, what happened in 2020 when they filed for bankruptcy. So Maggie Bullock, just a little bit about her. She wrote mostly for Elle and she wrote pieces on fashion, yes, but a little bit different. In a very smart way, she tied in what was happening in fashion to what's happening in life, and also just kind of drawing these connections that you might not think about when you are seeing a collection walk down a runway. How does that trickle down to the retail business, and how does that influence us as humans, and how one color can lead to another thing, and all of that brilliancy. So that a lot of that stuff, all of those connections are in this book as well. One of my favorite things that Maggie Bullock does, especially in this book, her first book, by the way, which is incredible on so many different levels, is that she takes away a lot of the gossip, a lot of he said, she said, and she sticks to the facts. She sticks to what's going on, but she gives you lots of different perspectives. She gives you perspectives from the clients or customers. She gives you perspectives from the design team. She gives you perspectives from Jenna Lyons and Emily Sinadar and just all of these really key players, but also people like you and me who maybe started a blog or were just really passionate about this store specifically. So I feel like for me, I missed this J Crew obsession that took over the world during 2008 to 2016, just because of where I was in my life journey and financially and all of those things. I completely missed it. But last year when I was looking up inspiration on Pinterest, what popped up? One of Jenna Lyons' style guides. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know who Jenna Lyons was. I didn't even know I was looking at something from J Crew, from an old J Crew styling guide. But I thought, this is brilliant. This is how I want to dress. And where can I buy these clothes? And it was so bizarre because about a month after that, I was introduced to an article in Vanity Fair that Maggie Bullock, the author of this amazing book, wrote. I immediately read it and then I immediately ordered this book and have been obsessed with looking at the archives of J Crew ever since and learning about the company and how it went, again, from just a catalog company all the way to a multi-billion-dollar business was fascinating. So let's get into the story a little bit. Now, Maggie Bullock said that she interviewed over 100 people, again, from various walks of life, from various relationships with the company, from stylists, from people who worked with the Sinadars, to people who worked with Jenna Lyons, to Jenna Lyons, and just hearing all those interpretations and all of those memories and combining them into a cohesive story is really, really interesting. We start with the call for bankruptcy in 2020. Maggie Bullock immediately goes back and defines what is prep. Does J Crew even think it is preppy? And the answer is no, they do not. However, if you ask almost anybody else who isn't involved in the company of J Crew, we of course would say J Crew is prep. That's just what it is. And it turns out that in the beginning, J Crew really went after Ralph Lauren and they wanted something that was a little bit more wearable and a little bit more affordable to the masses. So they took a lot of his ideas in the 80s and the 90s and they created a catalog. and they created this whole life. They created a new kind of catalog shoot where you would have models running around on the beach, but they would give them jobs to do, whether it was catching a crab or shaving. It didn't even have to make any sense, but it was a whole new way to take photographs, and it was a whole new way to take photographs for a catalog. Arthur Sinadar, who is Emily's father, or who was Emily's father, he spent so much time naming all the different colors and just adding in these little quirky bits. If you asked him if this was a preppy catalog, he would say absolutely not. But a lot of the people who were involved in bringing J Crew to life were from prep schools and kind of had that preppy lifestyle. So it just makes sense that a little bit of that prep, or a lot of that prep, infiltrated the business, at least in the beginning, because that's where the people who created it came from. Now, I think J Crew is famous for their color names and also just that quirky description of their clothing, or at least they were. So it was, again, it was just really fun to see how a brand was built, and that no, it did not just pop out this incredible, polished, beautiful store. It took them a very long time to actually get a brick and mortar store, and it would never have happened if Arthur's daughter, Emily, had not come on the scene. She completely changed everything. She just went after textiles, and she went after quality, and she went after a whole lifestyle that became the J Crew lifestyle. So much so that the college women, young women who are reading these catalogs start to make up stories about the models, and Jenna Lyons herself would even get this catalog and like memorize everything about it, and it really influenced her later on in her fashion journey when she went to New York and worked for other fashion houses and eventually went to J Crew. The thing I love about that is you have this brilliant businessman, Arthur Sinadar, who's doing a great job in other businesses. He wants to launch a catalog. He doesn't really know what for. And then nothing's really happening again until his daughter comes in, who is fresh out of college, that helped this company rise from a catalog company to brick and mortar and then beyond, with the help of many others, for sure. There's a few instances when Emily is so interested and so determined to get the best quality that she asks an associate to part with their pants so that she can basically copy the texture of the pants, and she sends it off to a lab so that J Crew can now have this perfect textured pant. Now, that being said, Emily was apparently maybe not the easiest to work with. However, it's really always hard to judge someone from the present based on what happened in the past. Yes, there are some stories that you think this would never fly today that are in the book, but you also have to wonder, is it just because she was a woman, or is it because that really wasn't okay? Some stories that really wasn't okay, and some stories you think, no, I think that's just because she was a young woman doing this incredible job and super, super high up, and just recognizing that we do judge women and men differently in different tiers of power. But I think she really needs to be thanked for everything that she did for that company, and just the awesome power that she had when very few women were high up in the fashion industry. Most women in the fashion industry, at least back then, were just working in the stores. They weren't that high level. They weren't the CEO. They weren't the president. They weren't the creative director. It was all men. The fact that she could walk into the boardroom and really own it is incredible, and might also have to do with how she was perceived as a little bit cold, because There was nobody else that she could really relate to. Now, she is not somebody who wants to have a lot of attention drawn to herself, even though there are moments in her J. Crew career when she gets involved in Hollywood and, you know, things start to kind of build up for her socially and personally. She still wants to keep J. Crew just J. Crew. Once she is asked to leave and then a new creative director comes in, enter Jenna Lyons. So Jenna Lyons doesn't start out as the creative director. She works her way up. I believe she even starts in menswear and is pretty quickly changed into women's wear, and then eventually becomes the president of J. Crew Company, which again, another woman in a high profile, high powerful position, not given enough credit. Now, some of you might know Jenna Lyons from her TV show or her couple TV shows. I don't actually follow any of those TV shows, so I can't speak to that. But the way that she is portrayed in the book, I would say mostly is very interesting and really, really thoughtful. Just how she styles shoots, how she speaks with other creatives. There are a few moments, just like with Emily Sinodar, where the fame kind of takes over and Jenna Lyons herself actually becomes bigger than the company, and it becomes a little bit of, is that okay that a person becomes a brand? And remember that this is before people were personal branding things and before we had people like me who were talking about fashion and style and beauty, who weren't from New York and are just have a love of this topic. So she was a real trailblazer in many, many different ways. And I'm going to focus on Jenna Lyons for a little bit, just because how she styled her style guides in J. Crew from the moment she takes over as creative director is truly incredible and changed the way that we as women think about dressing, how we think about color, how we think about pattern play, how we think about just joyful dressing. Even if you look at Jenna Lyons and how she styles herself now, it is very different from how a lot of other people are styling themselves, unless they're copying her. She truly changed the way that companies, and not just J. Crew, but companies think about putting together suits and putting together collections and how they shoot those collections. So a few of my favorite stories from the book are when we are in the Sinodar era of J. Crew. So think basics, think great tailoring, think just classic pieces, basically what you think of J. Crew when you think of J. Crew. And I love the fact that to save money, they would layer on so many pieces onto their models, and that they would shoot that one, whatever was on top, they would shoot that, take that sweater off, shoot the next thing, take that shirt off, shoot the next thing. I mean, that is brilliant, and apparently they were made fun of throughout mass media for why is J. Crew doing so many layers. And the interesting thing about that is that last year, I think around spring and definitely summer, fall, J. Crew factories started doing that in some of their campaigns. And again, like after reading this, I thought, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. It's such a quirky way to dress. It doesn't really make sense for a lot of people and body types. You would have to have such thin layers in order for those 5 layers to really work, but it did look really interesting and really fun. So it's just this constant battle between what works in the real life and what works in a photo shoot, which does kind of bite J. Crew a few times in their history, and not listening to the everyday person and their customers and their clients versus what looks good in a photograph. Another of my favorite stories is the Jenna Lyons Cinderella story, where Mickey Drexler has come in. He's the new CEO and he is doing what he calls surgery. So he's getting rid of anything he doesn't think works, including people. So everybody's on the chopping block. Everyone's fighting for their job. Jenna Lyons is in the room. He has this whole spread of clothes up front. He asks her what she thinks, and supposedly she says, "I don't really like any of it," and starts picking up and styling very quickly, just off the cuff. And he loves everything that she says and immediately singles her out as someone that he can trust and somebody that he can go to for styling of J Crew. And that is kind of how she rose up the ranks of just managing a team to managing the entire company. So those are just a few really fun stories that come out of this. Of course, there's a lot of how to build a brand, again, where you can source things. I love that sneak behind the curtain and seeing, like, where did those bubble necklaces come from? Where did Emily get that idea to have somebody like holding a crab for a photo shoot? Or how do they get Linda Evangelista to get on the cover of J Crew? All of this goodness is in this book. So I would highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in fashion, styling, branding, powerful women. Definitely give this book a try. So that is the book talk. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I truly, truly love this book. I've read it 3 times since I picked it up, and I want to keep reading it because every time I read it, I find another goodie that's in there, just something that sticks in my brain a little bit more. Next month, we are covering Misty Copeland's journey into becoming a world-class and a world-famous ballerina. It is so good. There's such great books this year. I really hope that you'll join me next month for that. I do fashion videos every Wednesday, beauty videos every Friday. On Friday, I'm doing a Jenna Lyons inspired look, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you are tuned into Instagram and watching the shorts as well, because there's going to be some really fun J Crew inspired looks happening this week. And I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye!